It's another water cooler Wednesday. And we're here for you.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yes, yes.
We rep to
So,
go.
yeah. Um,
Show my age.
Today we were, I guess a lot of people, some people did, kind of fall behind on their mortgage um, during the last few years. And, foreclosures are going to start back up soon. And so we thought we'd talk about foreclosure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what happens? How can you prevent it? What are some of the things you need to do? So, Lisa, when does the mortgage company really start to normally in normal times start to foreclose like on your property?
So, if I were to address that, I think I would say after 90 days, they actually can. So, if you have, excuse me, usually if you have about three payments that are missing, they actually can start the foreclosure process. I think
Yeah.
that's the legal way that it's supposed to work. Now, the way I've seen it work in reality, though, is that, especially for this area, Cook County, um, you can have probably about six missed payments before they will actually file with the court. So, with the state of Illinois, we are actually what they call like a judicial state. So, that basically means that for us, in order for someone to foreclose on our home, they have to take us to court. You have to go through a whole court proceeding. So, to be real honest with you, in some ways that I think that actually kind of plays on our behalf as a borrower, the homeowner, because of the fact that like if you were to look up probably some of the stats on how long it's taken for foreclosures in Cook County, a lot of times it's taken about 2 years or more for a foreclosure to happen. So even though they may file it, like say, April of this year, 2022, but it might not be to sometime in 2024 that it's actually completed. And the good thing about that is that all of that time in between, you actually still have the opportunity to do something to save your home and be able to stay in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, so one of the things that, I know it's hard. Nobody wants to talk about the F word, and it can be a pretty scary feeling, that
Mm-hmm.
everything that you work so hard and, because we're, in real estate, I'm a loan officer and you're a realtor, broker and realtor. Um, then we see how hard people work to get their houses.
Right.
We see the hoops that they jump through, the process that they, commit to, and then follow through all the way to the end, just to get to a point where life happened. Because sometimes it could be the death of a wage earner. It could
Mhm.
be, something happened. You lost your job. It could be any number of things.
Right.
Medical stuff. It could be medical stuff. I've seen people
Right.
had to kind of start life over because they had a major medical issue that happened that impacted everything, how they could work, what they could do, everything. So it's hard to look at the possibility of losing everything that you worked so hard for. So I think today, as we talk about the F word, what we really want to talk about is if there are ways to avoid it. How can you prevent the foreclosure? Because that's what probably, within that 2 year time span. And even before you get to that point. So let's just say, for example, you had a major incident. Something happened. Maybe you got sick. Maybe you got laid off, whatever. Something happened. Don't wait. Take action immediately. Immediately
Mm-hmm.
talk to your service. Immediately figure out a plan of action. Immediately say, okay, it's possible, that in 6 months I will still not have paid a mortgage and I can go into foreclosure.
Right.
Don't wait until it happens. If you see it coming, see it down the road, then say, okay, let me make a plan for this right now so that
Right.
I don't have to deal with this in 6 months.
I
Um,
think as humans, a lot of us, our first thing is to avoid, right? Avoid
yeah.
the confrontation, avoid the phone calls and not answer, things like that.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, yeah, they are the bill collector and they're calling you. But it might be of your best interest to answer the phone, pick up the
Yeah.
phone, because a lot of times they have some different programs that they might be offering you, asking some questions, just different things. And I think Lisa's going to talk about some of those things. I don't want to start talking about them, but
Yeah, it's okay.
they'll offer you different programs in order to help you with your mortgage payment.
Right.
Maybe forgive a payment, things like that. So, yeah,
And I just told somebody this earlier today. This didn't have anything to do with foreclosure, but it just had to do with what you know and what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
yeah,
I'm gonna say that again. You don't know what you don't know. So until you talk to somebody who knows, you don't really know. Like, you don't know what options are. You don't know what other people have done. You don't have any examples of, how these situations can be handled. Because 9 times out of 10, probably 9.9999 times out of 10, if you are dealing with the situation, then somebody else before you has dealt with the same
same
situation.
situation, right?
And so
Yeah,
because they had a way that they got through it, so there's a way that you may be able to get through it too. If you can apply some of the same things that were learned from that previous experience. So um, I would say, again, if it's something, we're going to take this kind of on a timeline. So let's just say that we're at the point where something drastic has happened. You don't think you'll be able to work for the next 6 months. You can't pay the mortgage. What do you do? First thing you want to look at is, can I refinance? Is it possible, that I can either take money out to, recoup some of the stuff, because equity is there. Like right now in this kind of market,
yeah,
most people have equity. So if you got equity, maybe take that equity out, pay down some other bills, figure out some kind of a plan on what you can do with that lump sum of money in order to keep yourself going and be financially stable as possible, over the next few months while you get back to whatever your normal is. So that's one thing you can think about doing. Another thing, you can actually do a loan modification or forbearance without being like far behind. So, for example, I know if you haven't anticipated, like, something just happened, but you haven't actually fallen behind yet, you can call the mortgage service and be like, hey, this happened. I don't anticipate that I'm going to be able to make the mortgage. Is there something that we can work out? And then talk with them about what those options might be. They may modify the loan for you. I have heard, again, we don't want to just put pie in the sky. We want to talk real stuff about what we actually know. So I have heard from several different sources for people doing modification that it seems to work better if you have fallen behind. Like if you have a payment or two that are missed, they say that
right.
they're more amicable, I
Willing,
guess you could
right,
say. Yeah, more willing to actually work with you because then they physically see, that you had something happen if you didn't pay the mortgage. So that they physically see that. And so then, they can take that and more readily work on your behalf. But my understanding, the way it's supposed to work actually is that even if it has not happened yet, if you haven't missed a payment yet, you can actually say, and I've seen people that have done that as well. I've seen it from both sides. So
mm-hmm,
people call in ahead of time and say, hey, I just had this happen. I know I haven't missed a payment yet, but I don't want to. What can we do?
right,
Um, Actually, I didn't think about this before, but you could do a deed in lieu. So a deed in lieu of foreclosure actually is an arrangement that you make with the bank. Basically, you give the house back. If you're in a position where you have someplace else where you can go, which you'll be safe and everything, and you don't want to fight for the house, you feel like it'd be better just to not have a mortgage. Okay, call at the bank and say, hey, I'd like to do a deed in lieu. In
right,
lieu of foreclosing up on my home, I'm going to give you back the deed to the house, so it's coming
yeah,
back to you, like a voluntary repossession. Can't you do that with a car? I've never done it, but can't you do
mm-hmm,
that with
yeah,
a car? Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
So it's the same
Now,
kind of thing.
yeah. Now, one thing as a realtor, what I'd say is before you do a deed in the lieu, speak to a realtor. Find out like what, and make sure you know how much equity you have in your home, things like that, because maybe we could sell the house prior to you losing the house. So,
Mhm.
whereas you just giving them the property back, I would say, yeah, if you don't have any equity in the house and there's no chance of you being able to sell the house,
Yeah.
That I would probably do that. But then, but if you know, a similar market like right now, there's a shortage of homes. Maybe you could do a short sale. So I don't know if you were going
Hmm.
to talk about a short sale, but
You can
a
talk
short
about it. No, that's good.
right. So a short sale, there's a couple things. You could just sell the house, right? Say put the
Hmm.
house on the market and then walk away with the $20,000, $30,000 of equity that you have, and then maybe sit back. You know, you have an apartment for a little while, and then come back and purchase another house. That way,
Hmm.
you don't have a foreclosure on
Yeah, on your credit.
on your credit. You may have some late
And
payment, right?
and if you do walk away with some money, pay up your rent for the year. So
Right.
now you
Yeah.
don't even have that monthly payment to worry about. And
You don't
a
have to
lot of
worry
times
about.
landlords, if you pay up, 6 to 12 months in advance, they may even, charge you a little bit less.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So sometimes, and we might see this kind of going forward because we had a lot of people purchase houses over the appraisal value, or
Hmm.
you know, um, or we had a lot of people purchasing houses for higher than normal. And
Yeah.
so, let's say, for instance, the market, really does shift, and then the properties around it start to sell for less,
Yeah.
then that means that when I go to list your property, that you owe more than what your property is actually worth. So that could happen to you in the next, maybe that could happen maybe next 2 or 3 years down the line.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't see it right now because most of the time, most right now, everybody's property values or homes that have sold in the last 6 months have been
Hmm.
high. So
Yep.
this is probably a more time that you'll have an equity and would not have to worry about doing a short sale.
Yeah.
But a short sale is, and let me just kind of explain that because a little bit clear, because I'll say short sale and people are like, oh, okay, like they think that the property is going to sell short period of time, but that's not what
Oh,
short.
that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right, it's right. The name is totally opposite of what it actually is. Like a
Right.
short sale means that I owe more on my property than what I could actually sell it for. And so I want to sell my property. So the bank has to agree to the price that I received an offer for. Right?
Mhm.
So I owe 130. My house is only can only sell for 120 or 100 or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So now the bank has to agree to that 100, and the bank's agreement takes a long period of time. Like
Right.
there,
But that's where the word short comes in though, because it's short of what they actually should be getting for it. It's short.
mhm,
So yeah.
right. So let's see. We do have a question. So let's just kind of answer. It says, just wondering if a person is almost at the point of foreclosure and the bank is not working with them, can you still keep the property? Do you need an attorney, or do you find one that is a
Pro bono.
uh pro?
Basically they'll work for free.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure how to fully answer that question because one, I don't know what you mean by the bank is not working with you. So
Maybe
if
they've
you're
decided that they're not going to give them any type of modification or anything. So right, because that would be a situation where the bank is not working with them.
okay, um, so if you try the modification, I would say try and try again. So let me give you an example of something. Let's say somebody's at the point where, again, close to foreclosure, but it hasn't actually been filed yet because that's what it sounds like. You said a person is almost at the point of foreclosure. So to me, that sounds like a list pending has not yet been filed with the local court. So if you're at that point and the bank hasn't approved your last modification request or whatever, apply again, go to the HUD housing counselors and talk with them and see if you can get them to advocate on your behalf, because usually they're going to be the ones that can step in and help you in a case like that. You can get an attorney, but a lot of times what attorneys will do is probably help you to declare bankruptcy. So that could work. That could help. And if you don't mind having a bankruptcy on your record, after a couple of years, it doesn't really matter as much anyway, especially when it comes to lending in the arena of mortgages. So that's something that you could look at. But I want to share a story with you as well. Somebody who will remain nameless was at the point of foreclosure, but the papers had not been filed yet. So this person had went through several different times of requesting a modification, three or four, I think it was. Okay. And so each time they would say, oh, well, we didn't get all your documents. So we will have to deny the application for incompleteness. It wasn't complete. And so the person was like, okay, so that didn't work. So they went back again and said, hey, I didn't qualify for any of these programs. I want to know, can you look into they talked to somebody on the phone. Can you look into a what do they call it? The COVID something, some kind of
Mm.
COVID grant or something like that. And so they said, okay. So then they went back and then lo and behold, now this person qualified. So then they sent papers in the mail. The papers in the mail the person received, and they wanted to do a principal reduction of $50,000. They wanted to take $50,000 off, and then what was going to happen is that $50,000 would become a balloon payment at the end of their mortgage. They extended the person's mortgage by 3 years and said, okay, instead of you the time you already have it on your mortgage, we're gonna nix all of that, and we're gonna have you start all over. And this time you're gonna get a new 31-year mortgage in order to pay all of this, and you have to pay this $50,000, and we're going to increase your interest rate by 2.5%. So the person was like, I'm glad they approved me, but it seems like this is not really the best deal. So the person called up and said, hey, it doesn't seem like this is really a good deal. I thought that this would go down, not up. You're increasing my interest rate, and you're extending my mortgage, and giving me a lump sum payment at the end. Is there something else that I can do instead? And so the person was like, well, actually, you do qualify for this other program. What other program? So they got the new program. The new program was only $8,000 as the lump sum payment, no principal reduction, no 2.5% increase in the interest rate, and no extension of the length of the mortgage. So the person didn't have to start over again with an additional 3 years and have a 31-year mortgage. They kept the
Mhm.
time that they already had in. So what am I saying? You need to keep trying. If you trying means that you have to call to talk to 5 different people, do it. Because if you really want, you ask, can you still keep the property? You want to stay in your home, then you need to do everything that you can to make sure that happens. So
Right.
that means don't get so frustrated that you fall
And don't give up.
right.
Right.
Don't get so frustrated that you fall into what they want you to fall into, which is that you just don't do anything. Say, okay, well, forget it. You just had a house. Don't do
Right.
that. But again, also keep in mind that even when you get to the point where they do file for the foreclosure, in Crook County, it's still taking about 2 years for that to even happen. So many things could change within that context of time. 2 years is a good amount of time. You could get back on your feet. You can go back and say, okay, well, we want to modify it now because these things are changed. This is different. This is what we can come up with. You still have options, I guess is what
Hmm.
I'm saying.
Right.
And if all else fails, you can always go and declare bankruptcy. And your bankruptcy, I'm not an attorney. I do play on the TV though. No, I'm just kidding. But you do have the option to consult with the bankruptcy attorney and see how those options would look for you. As far as being able to get something done. Because I know once you go under bankruptcy protection, they cannot continue to collect. They can't do that because that's one of the things that bankruptcy does. It puts something into place called an automatic stay. An
Right.
automatic stay means that no debtor can collect from you because you're under the protection of the bankruptcy court. So that in itself gives you some breathing room and some time to kind of figure things out. Sometimes all
Mhm.
we need is just enough time to work through a problem and then we come to the solution that we need to come to.
Right.
So
Uh,
hopefully that's at least a little bit helpful.
yeah, yeah. So we know it's a lot, but we're really here to say, like, don't give up. There's a lot of different programs out here. There's different options. Don't lose your equity in your home
Hmm.
because you just didn't know what to do, and so now you have this equity, so you've even lost your equity as well as your home. So, but you definitely can just ask them, ask for help, ask for different programs. Illinois has a program out right now actually for foreclosures, and so I would look up the Illinois Assistance Foreclosure Program that is out there.